understand a lot of things depending on, in a realistic scenario, when we are trying to find value out of the detection rules that we have written, some of them may never have shown too many false positives, but in a realistic scenario, like for example, when Log4j happened, we were focusing on the software assets that we had and the inventory and the libraries which are vulnerable, this and that, and then we figured, oh, so infra, there is a lot of infra also that we are building on top of also has this issue, right? So there are layers and layers to this where I think the team needs to be aware of where all it can go, and then some unknowns will always be there in that
Right.
case.
That's a very good example of Log4j that you brought in, right? Because Log4j was a evolving threat during the first 1 or 2 weeks, right? And the way it was evolving is that attackers themselves were changing their tactics, right? They went from simple strings, then putting it into the request cookie, then putting it into the header, and then you had to kind of like catch up over there.
Fuzzing
And
everything.
yes, exactly, fuzzing each and every parameter in the ecosystem. And then it started also, like you said, not only applications, it hit infrastructure, you could say appliances, firewall, web server thing, and also even in some cases WAF, so VPN devices. It gets very tricky. And that's where this entire process of what we were just discussing, the DevOpsification, helped us a lot. We were able to move much more faster and deploy this content to customers much more faster because we had that back-end system available for us. Make the change, detect it, get an idea. We had our research team also helping us out over there, identify what new patterns are there, trigger that, and send it back to the customer. So this entire process is much faster rather than me sitting and then configuring it and then testing out. No doubt there were a lot of false positives, but at that point of time, since the heat of the threat was there,
It
customers
wouldn't
were
matter.
able to, they would rather detect. And there's a very funny story also that we have over there. We in this kind of like fast-paced environment, right? We built something that was detecting this log4j patterns for each traffic, incoming, outgoing, everything. What we didn't realize is web proxy traffic. People were Google searching the patterns in their environment, maybe the SOC team, or people are trying to learn about what the string is there. And those were also getting triggered as
Getting
false
caught.
positives.
Okay, yeah.
And we had to manually sit and see why are we getting so many false positives over there. And we realized, oh,
Insider threat. Not call
yeah.
it insider threat
Yeah.
at the time.
So that was a good learning that, okay, the directionality of the traffic matters in threat detection also a lot, right? Right. We did not think that through a lot because it was like, I remember very specifically we were building those overnight, right? And while for the US folks in my team, it was okay. And the Indian folks, it was like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the night that we are trying to evaluate all of these elements. So it happens, but that's the learning phase. That's the maturity that comes through. And having that backbone set up beforehand allows you to move much faster in these situations, especially when there's an emerging threat. You don't have time to think through on all of these elements at that point of time. Your focus is that if you're under an active attack, you want to be able to detect all those attacks rather than focus more on the false. But there's a counter to that, that if you are integrated with too many false positives, then you lose the real threat, right? So
Yeah.
a delicate balance that needs to be adopted.
Yeah, so yeah, that's the time to adapt very quickly. And I remember it was, I think, a time of I think 10 days to 2 weeks within which we had the new version. The new version was affected as well. And then you need to, start detecting that it's no more. So first you say 2.16, I think it was, and then later 2.17 came in. So a lot of
The
things
worst part
changed
it
in
came
those
at,
2 weeks.
yeah, the worst part it came up as was the around the New Year time. So many SOC teams don't have all the full resourcing power. So they are
Yes.
kind of like hit from all sides. The threats are changing and evolving. Then you need to have the content developers or detection engineers kind of like adopt to those. The threat intel team has to give you. But when you don't have this entire team with you at that point of time and they're mostly on vacations, it becomes a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I think that's again where engineering shows you that, that you need
Yes.
it way more than you think.